This guava pastry has a flaky crust with a sweet guava and cream cheese filling, and it takes just 4 ingredients to make it, and I'm going to show you how. If you're intimidated by baking, this is a great recipe to try. All you need is guava paste or guava cheese, frozen puff pastry, 1 egg, and cream cheese. If you're not familiar with what guava paste is, it's simply a combination of guava pulp and sugar that's been cooked down until it becomes this thick, sticky, and delicious treat. You can find this at your local Latino market or Caribbean market. You can also find this in the international section at your grocery store. And I'm just slicing these into strips. I am going to cut these in half before placing it into the pastry. I'm going to need 1 egg yolk to make the egg wash, and I'm showing you guys how I separate the yolk from the white. This is a very easy and effective method. You can save the egg whites for later use. You can make a scramble with it tomorrow. Just place it into the fridge. That's what I intend to do. Now that I have my egg yolk separated, I'm going to add a little bit of water, and I just like to poke the yolk to get things started and then whip it vigorously. Next, I'm going to slice the cream cheese, and this cream cheese has been out from the fridge for maybe 10 minutes, so you do not need it to be room temperature. And I'm slicing it about 1/3 of an inch in thickness. Now I'm going to set this aside and get started on the puff pastry. Now the puff pastry is frozen. You can purchase this in the frozen section at your grocery store. You let it thaw at room temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes depending on the temperature in your kitchen, but you do not want this to become warm. It needs to still be slightly cold. I am going to further roll it out just a little bit more to make it a little bit bigger. I'm also going to roll out the other sheet of puff pastry, but I'm going to make it slightly bigger than this one because it's going to have to cover the filling, and it needs to be able to line up with the edges of this sheet so that you can seal it. Next, I'm going to add the guava paste, and as you can see, I've cut those strips into half, and I'm just going to place 3 in a row. This is going to make 9 guava pastries. And as you can see, this is a super simple recipe. I do believe that even a beginner baker should be able to execute this recipe, and it is so delicious. If you have not had a chance to try this before, then you're definitely in for a treat. Next, I'm going to add the cream cheese on top of the guava paste, and the slight tang of the cream cheese is going to perfectly balance the sweet from the guava paste. Next, I'm going to take the egg wash and I'm going to brush in between all of the filling, and this is pretty much where the edges of each pastry is going to be. You're going to see once I place the other layer on top and then I cut it, the top layer and the bottom layer, the edges are going to seal together. This prevents the filling from oozing out as it bakes. And I'm going to use my hands to gently form each pastry. Now this is puff pastry. It has a lot of butter and it needs to be relatively cold, so you do not want to handle it too much. Next, I'm going to use a pizza cutter. You can also use a knife and just cut out the individual pastry. And I'm cutting in between the filling, and right at that line is where I brushed it with egg wash, so the edges are going to seal. And I'm just going to trim the edges. This is optional, but if you do, just make sure not to trim too much. Next, I'm going to place them onto a baking sheet pan that's been lined with parchment paper. Now I'm going to brush all of the tops generously with the egg wash. This is going to make the puff pastry golden brown and glossy. It's going to give it that beautiful color that you want, so do not skip this step. I'm going to place them into my oven and bake them for 15 minutes at 400 degrees, and this is what they look like. The pastry is golden brown and flaky. The filling is going to be gooey, but you're going to have to wait just a few minutes before digging in. Once it's cooled for a few minutes, it's time to break into that flaky pastry and enjoy. Thank you guys for joining me again. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below and I will see you guys next time.